We've got here.
Excellent. Let me just pull up the agenda. I'd like to do before we start. All right.
And while he's doing that, I'll just say my apologies. I let Nick know this, but I need to run to select board executive session tonight at 5:30 at the high school. So I'm gonna have to leave a little bit early this evening. So sorry, that was a last minute change in my schedule.
And I think because of that, and also because of town meeting, we should play it. Try and get through our agenda. It looks like we're not going to get through something. We should just call it early, let people get to town meeting, let Alexander get out of here and resume when it's a little less crazy.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Okay. All right. So welcome to everyone. Do we have anyone online? We've got Perry Grossman, Saul Shepherd. We have
Rich Swanson. I think I've met many of you.
Last time he was here.
Yeah,
he was
thank you. I
on
was
screen.
Yeah, well, and I think I actually met a lot of you at the
Oh, the forum.
forum, yeah,
Yeah.
the public forum.
Right.
So yeah, in person.
okay, so the first order of business is to approve the 5/21/2025 and the 5/7/2025 draft meeting minutes. We'll do them one at a time. Let's do 5/21 because it's first on the list.
I have some typo corrections, but it'll take me a minute to get them up. I didn't have anything on the other ones.
Patty, I delivered a few already earlier today, separate from the meeting. I don't know if they're the same ones.
Okay, well, let me just go through it. So what is the spelling of my name? No N at the end of the last name?
Can you just confirm, is that on the 5/21 or 5/7?
Are we on, which one are we doing first? 5/7?
We're doing
5/21 first.
5/21 first, yeah, that's in that one. Okay. And then there was someplace where it said it is a P word.
Perjury instead of
Perjury
perjury.
instead of,
That has been corrected.
Yes,
okay.
yes, we were hoping it was not perjury.
Rebecca threw that into the waters in the room just to make sure that they were.
You know, it's funny because I had a newer copy. I was doing a word search. I couldn't find perjury.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, that was all I had.
And it was 5.
21.
The only thing I had at 5/21 was that there was a discussion. It was under the discussion of new construction, but we got off on a tangent. And I had said something about I had estimated costs for initiatives and they were going to be high, and that was referring to the Virgo. And we were talking
I
about
see.
it, and it's in there. It makes it sound like it was talking about the new construction.
Do
Maybe
you have a correction?
Well, I don't. I'd have to think about it. I suppose the cost for retrofits on large buildings instead of for these initiatives.
Okay, I can make that change.
okay. We can approve them both together, right? Like procedurally, we don't have to do this separately.
correct, unless anybody has any other.
Well, no, we can move on to 5/7 if we can do both together. Does anyone have any comments on 5/7?
Did 5/7 sneak in a little later than 5?
Yes, it did.
Oh, okay. So,
Does someone want
There wasn't any perjury.
it's a good thing I'm gonna look for it now.
I kept reading it.
does someone want a motion to move that?
Second.
Okay.
Marco made the motion?
So motion to, I can't make a motion, someone else needs to make the motion, yes.
Second.
So
Second.
You're all seconding, no one's making it.
So
We
I
need
make
someone
the
to make
motion.
it.
I make motion.
Okay, Al's making the motion
there we go.
Motion to approve.
and Vikram seconding.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all in favor. It's like we've never done this before. It's actually, it's normally because I get Kathleen.
I was gonna say, it's usually
Yeah.
Kathleen who does it, so
So
I cannot make a motion, no,
Oh,
he can second it, but he can't make it.
yes, okay. Open the discussion to public comment. Does anyone from the public have anything that they want to raise with the board?
Right, right now we've got no members of the public in the room. We have one online. If you'd like to make a comment, you can use the raise hand feature and let us know.
Okay,
Seeing none.
great. Next item. Climate Action and Resiliency Plan Summary of Feedback by Blue Strike. Presentation.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks everybody, for those joining us remote. Alexandra Vecchio, Director of Sustainability and Natural Resources, and I'm excited. We have with us in person, Rich Swanson from Blue Strike Environmental, and online we have Saul Shepard. And so for this presentation, like we talked about, we wanted to do a bit of a check-in on the feedback that we have thus far. So Rich will go through some quick summary of feedback on the first public forum, and then we'll spend a little bit more time and then as well talk about what he heard from the staff interviews that were completed, and then spend a little bit more time on the ZIAD interviews. Because as you all recall, when we were talking about this a few months ago, ZIAP wanted to make sure that anything that was included as input into the plan from ZIAP was collectively agreed upon by the group. So even though individual interviews were conducted, wanted to bring it back to the body as whole. So with that, I will turn it over to Rich. Thanks for being here.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's very nice to see, I think just about everybody again, especially if you were at the public forum, and I know I had the chance to interview several of you. So appreciate that input. And yeah, so this is, as Alexandra mentioned, this presentation is essentially sort of three parts. The first part will be a review of the public forum and the input that has been consolidated from that time. The second part is a short overview of the staff interviews that we've conducted. So we'll give you a couple slides on perspective from them. And then the last one is a summary of a little bit more extensive summary, sort of going into the strategies and a couple other items that I gathered from you. And yeah, I think that's pretty much exclusively from you. I have taken a look at some of the documents that are either in progress or that were from last year's draft. There was a draft that's sort of titled April 24th, 2024, something like that. So I have also looked at that, but I think most of the input that wound up in here is from those interviews. So we'll go ahead and dive on in. We can go to that first slide where it says, yeah, that's great. Thank you, Rebecca. So this question at the start of the public forum just asked people to take a chip and answer the question, what are your biggest concerns about climate change? They dropped, I think they had a few chips, 5 chips, I guess, dropped them into jars. The biggest concern here was sea level rise and coastal flooding, followed by temperature rise and extreme heat. And then it sort of trailed off from there, increased storm intensity, threats to biodiversity, impacts on health and vulnerable populations, et cetera. So that was that first exercise that you saw when you came in the door. Then we asked people to gather into teams and asked them, we gave them a list of criteria, sort of decision-making criteria, and we asked them to rank those criteria. So these are the rankings. The green ones are criteria that we gave them: climate impact, financial ROI, ease of financing, public visibility, and sort of the idea of community support, equity, and ease of implementation. And so you can see there the rankings in those green. And then some groups came up with additional items. So cooperation and support of the utilities, scalability, which is sort of I guess is an idea that you could sort of pilot a project and then repeat it. And then the durability or lasting impact of the particular activity, which was ranked by one group. Those last two were ranked by one group. Okay, so I am now going to talk about the different strategies that were ranked, and then I'm going to stop and see if you have any questions or comments about the public forum. So in the buildings and energy category, which these categories were given, so these are framework categories that we are now using for the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan. In the buildings and energy, the most suggested was variations on implementing solar panels for municipal buildings and throughout the community. So solar initiative and an overall solar plan was the most mentioned. Under sustainable transportation and mobility, the most suggested were policies and infrastructure benefiting bikes or electric vehicles. So that was bike infrastructure, EV charging, particularly for renters, electric shuttle services, and then micro mobility, which would be small vans, particularly for sort of last mile or across town errands, those kinds of things. Under the resource conservation and management, this would be how we manage all resources. So typically we're thinking of solid waste, water resources, but we've also, you'll see later, we've started putting in materials and purchasing into this category as well. They mentioned water conservation, most frequently, natural systems and community well-being. Increasing tree canopy was the most mentioned. And then under our final category, resilience, adaptation, and risk reduction, most participants supported an investment in green infrastructure, things like storm drain management, urban heat relief for urban heat islands, permeable pavement for flood mitigation, planting more trees, those types of efforts. So you can see how those categorized right there. And then this summarizes the top 5 strategies across all categories. The tree canopy piece was very popular. Solar panels was next, water conservation next, and then green infrastructure after that. So that summarizes really the results portion of the public forum. So I'm going to pause and just see what comments or questions you might have about that first part. Yeah, Bill.
Back one slide. The previous slide.
That's taking me a second to look.
Oh, there we go. On this one, so I'm not clear what the difference is between green infrastructure and the rest of those categories. Because they all seem to be green infrastructure, and the description up the top seems to use those to illustrate green infrastructure. How is that a separate?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably, because we didn't have a written, well, we did have a written definition, but people just put, we put in a variety of different strategies that may or may not be sort of separated from, one another. Some of them would be a little bit higher level. So green infrastructure, I think more typically would be, it probably wouldn't include storm drain management, as that would be more of a capital infrastructure piece. Planting more trees would probably be included in there. Permeable pavements might not necessarily be green infrastructure, depending, on sort of how you categorize it. But, I definitely see your point. I think I would put green infrastructure as a higher order,
Sort of.
and then things like bioswales and tree canopy and even permeable pavements and things like that would come under the category of green infrastructure.
I'm not sure what the future is for a slide like this, but it's just the wording of the description uses the things you just said are not part of green infrastructure as illustrations of green infrastructure.
Yeah,
So the
fair
probably
enough.
needs some clarification.
Yeah, fair enough.
I have a kind of a meta question, which is, so if you take the criteria, the first, how should climate action be selected and prioritized and the ranking? This is input to the CARP, it's input to Alexandra and her team, it's input also to ZIAB effectively, like this is what the town thinks. What if we disagree? What if this group disagrees with the rankings? Like, how are we meant to be using this for input? How are you going to use this for input? Do we just take this as direction from staff, from the town? Or like, what's the?
I think that's probably something that you as ZIAB need to grapple with. This is representative of 50 people that were in the room. So I think also thinking about the sample size, I would say probably looking at this with the survey information that we get will be important as well. But I think ultimately there are things that, and I'm going to use this as an example, tree canopy is something that is going to get extraordinary support. Like that's something the community very much cares about. That's something that has a lot of co-benefits outside of just climate mitigation and adaptation. It's something that the community is clearly invested in. That being said, Ziad is gonna have to think about, well, is that having the greatest greenhouse gas reduction value? And if it is not, which it's not, then what does that mean for how you're prioritizing it? And so I think that goes back to the framework you have of the weights that you're giving and emphasis that you're giving to the different categories of overall climate impact, overall greenhouse gas reduction potential.
Yeah, so the example I'll give is equity ranks really quite low. So in our framework, we have said that we think equity is quite important.
Mhm.
So it's got a quite significant multiplier. And so if I was to take this feedback from this group of 50, as you point out, not representative, I would say equity is not as important. The town, the people who came to us. However, I am not inclined to make that assessment. I'm inclined to keep equity as an important component.
Yeah.
But
So I think the couple of questions here, like first, how many people attended it?
Yeah, and we took rolls for 39 or 40, about 40 people.
40 people.
And yeah, could be some people didn't sign in, but
Yeah. And also I think it's a little bit of a challenge, like what's the level of their knowledge and expertise in this space? Is it just general folks, well-meaning, wanting to contribute?
everything. I mean, I attended and there was, I think, a very broad mix of expertise and just people who are just interested in the question.
So I think that's where the challenge comes in. This is kind of an input, but not setting the direction. That would be my 2 cents. And part of this is like, I think, understanding where the community is and then educating them on what matters. Right? That I think maybe part of CARD is one of the tasks could be, let's educate the community on how to get things done.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would add a caveat, not on this slide, but when we get to their ideas, the ideas that people gave, because there were advocates there who are talking to a broad swath of people. And they maybe have identified particular needs. They feel that the town has leverage to meet and address. So, you know, maybe we kind of weigh certain kinds of input differently than others.
I think broad strokes, this is what a planning process is, where you're kind of taking it, the soup and we're dumping in all these different ingredients. And so at the end, we look and see everything that's in there. And then that standard set of criteria that we're using for prioritization is going to be important. Obviously, if something's suggested as an input to the plan that has nothing to do with climate, then mitigation or resiliency, it's like, okay, well, that's like an easy, doesn't fit in the definition of the plan. But if I think after that, it really becomes about prioritizing and thinking about how we're prioritizing.
Yeah, I mean, the two things that's jumped out for me were equity and ease of implementation by town staff were ranked really low. And I think, practically speaking, if it's not possible or easy for town staff to do, it's not going to happen. So I think that is a misunderstanding of how things work, maybe. Anyway, that's just a thought.
I think the process here, should be considered too. I mean, we gave people a list of, 6, and they were asked to rank those 6. So, we didn't give them 15.
Yeah.
So they didn't pick these 6 out of 15 or even more than that. And so that exercise, we don't know what the results of that exercise would have been.
I know the group that I was in, we spent a lot of time talking about the equity, because the way it was presented was rank these. And the nature of the discussion within our group was, well, equity sort of goes across all of these. How do we rank equity to make it number 1? Because so I think that was part of it as well. I've got a question. If you go to the next slide. I'm going to use the buildings and energy since that's what I've been working on, but my questions are both general and also specific. There are 4 categories on there. I'm not going to bother to read them all out here, but were those the only 4 categories that were presented? I was trying to remember last night when I was looking at the slides, because
Sort of as examples, you mean?
Well, because I'm surprised that
This was suggested by people and then they put stars in it. Isn't that how that works?
yeah, that's what yeah, okay. So they were not given these.
This was from the community and then people.
Okay, that's what
to like say.
Yeah.
We did
upvote.
provide some demonstrative examples of what we mean for people who
Yeah.
didn't have familiarity, and so I don't recall what those examples were, but we could pull it
Yeah.
up. So I'm
Around
not sure
slide 16.
if any of them, but then it was, yeah, basically upvoted. There we go.
Yeah.
So that's what we provided people as examples, and so that could have,
Right.
but those are pretty broad. So I think those were ideas that came from people on Post-its and then were upvoted by people
Okay.
with sticky.
Okay, yeah, because when I looked at it, I mean, what struck me is, we're talking a lot about the greenhouse gas emissions from buildings. But other than people would like to get better prices by bulk purchasing heat pumps, emissions from buildings isn't really there as a topic. It's more, well, help us get solar panels or help us get this. So that answers that question for me. I guess what I would say is that it seems like, again, the group that was there came up with, I don't know if I should call it narrower, but there's, I think, different emphasis from some of the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, which is good.
So just a clarifying question, Ellen. So these, you felt like these didn't necessarily address
No, they
carbon savings for buildings, or
they address it, but I don't know. I guess I was thinking. I'm thinking more in terms of the broader issue about how you electrify buildings. These individually do address it. It's a little bit interesting. There's nothing in here about tell me more about what I need to know about heat pumps.
Mhm.
Or something like that. And yet I think we find out a lot too when you talk to people, they have a lot of questions about how do you do it, how much does it cost, and so on.
So you should know also that there could have been 40 things, I think, in building managers, there could have been 40 post-it notes up there and none of them, a bunch of them didn't get votes.
Yeah,
that's possible, yeah, or maybe one, or yeah, or
So
something like
just
that.
bear in mind that there could have been a lot more things on the board
Yeah.
that people were voting on, but they just didn't get enough votes for them to show up.
yeah, which I think is important because that's
Yeah.
what that's the input.
Okay. We should probably move on. Would you have a of time today?
Yeah. Let's go to slide 9. Yeah, so there are and 10. So our staff interviews, we did a lot of them. I mean, we interviewed across the, we probably didn't catch every department. But anyway, we did get a very good cross section of staff departments. And I've split this up into 2 topics. The first topic is support for climate action. And then the second topic is implementation considerations that they sort of wanted us to understand and metabolize in the process of selecting strategies. Yeah.
I'm curious if you can say how many, without names, but how many people you talked to in the planning department?
We talked to 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, wow. And how about building?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
So there's very broad alignment. All the departments fully support climate goals. Everybody was very happy to talk and very supportive of the goals. One of the questions dealt with that directly, and really saw sustainability as a core part of their own job descriptions and the operations within their department. Moving into sort of a transportation and fleet and looking at these different buckets, maybe there is a lot of interest in EVs and charging infrastructure, both at the town level and also community wide. Support for safer streets and mode shifting, particularly in the downtown areas. Buildings and facilities, there has been a focus, at least some focus on electrification, efficiency, and then a little bit of solar. Existing planning already reflects climate goals, was something that a number of people said, we do integrate climate goals into our existing planning and our outlook. And then a few people brought up just the value of collaborating with the public, with different NGOs, and some of them had more to say on that than others who didn't necessarily always get into it. So if we go to the implementation considerations, one of the things these really are four primary items. One was equity and affordability, another capacity limits, data and tools, and sometimes the limitations there, and then just an assurance that integrating with the overall town processes was important and remained sort of a consideration when putting together the call. So protecting low renters and low income households, avoiding one size fits all mandates. The capacity limits thing, this was a big theme for most of the departments, not everybody, but many. Staff and funding constraints, there was slow progress there. They talked about the warrants coming to town meeting and how those are fairly easy to sort of bring to the town meeting, but the developing capacity to achieve the goals that are intended by those warrants is sometimes slow and difficult to build. The data and tools part, a number called for emissions tracking, clear, actionable guidance. So they wanted to make sure that the CARP is very tangible, very clear, actionable steps. Embedding things into zoning and budgets, capital planning, that stuff takes time, but is also vital, and they wanted to make sure that that was part of it. Before I stop for this part to see if there are any questions or comments, go to the next slide, Rebecca. I just wanted to mention here that our overall planning framework works a little bit like this. So we take typically a high level target. So for example, you have reduced Brookline's emissions to net zero by 2040 as a target currently. We then move towards what we call goals. So this is just an opportunity to, maybe share language across this framework. We talk about goals. These are sector specific emissions targets or use goals. So they might be things like eliminating the use of fossil fuels in town buildings by 2035. Or eliminating, making all town fleet vehicles electric vehicles by some date. So that's a goal. We then move into strategies. These are high-level steps to achieve the goal. So it might be electrify all municipal buildings, for example. Then we talk about actions. These are discrete activities that support the strategies. An action might be hire an EPC to plan and execute sequential activities on the way to electrifying municipal buildings.
Question? First, what's EPC?
The procurement contractor, engineering procurement contractor.
Okay. Second, so this particular slide is not related to staff. This is Blue Strike suggesting a framework to us. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and it's probably has to do, would be fairly similar to a planning effort within a town. So this is really meant to reflect a town or a city municipality planning effort.
Okay. And are the actions building up to the target, or is it all do it by 35 or 40?
Yeah, so the actions would support the strategy. So if you look at the strategy, then you have a series of action steps to implement that overall strategy. The strategy ought to build up to the goal. And then the goals collectively would build up to the overall target.
I get that. Sorry, my question is a little bit more. I think the challenge that comes in and what we were trying to do last year was being very, very specific to say next 12 months, this is what you got to do, right? Call it 13 to 24 months, this is what you got to do. Right? And build a highly actionable targeted plan, because I think if you throw everything to 7 years, 8 years, 10 years out, everything will get done in year 9, right?
Sure, right. So that's a great question.
How
So
do we build up to?
towards the overall target. So the way that we typically structure, and we work with you on this, but the way we typically structure our plans is sort of short-term, mid-term, and long-term. We can get more refined than that if you feel like that would be helpful. And then we have like an action plan for the next, we might have do these things this year. Then we have do these things in the next 5 years, do these things in the next 10, do these things by 20,
I think
whatever.
at least if it was up to me, I would be very, very specific as to a list of priority. Almost like do not go to point number 4, action number 4, if you have not completed number 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's exactly how Cambridge did theirs, their net zero action plan, NZAP. They had short-term, mid-term, longer term, and they were building blocks. So, for example,
Within each
embodied
of those.
carbon, they were just, do a reporting, and then we're gonna develop construction, it just kind of was a logical work plan.
Yeah, fine.
And,
Yeah.
but the plan, I just want to make sure I understand. They might have had a whole bunch of different goals. And when you talk about short, medium, and long term, that was applied to some specific goal, and another goal would have
Yeah.
some other,
Yeah.
other time frame.
And it was like it was all, they had they do 5-year plans.
Yeah.
So theirs was, year 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5,
Okay,
for longer.
so I would agree. I think I'd maybe flip it the other way and say a list of actions absent a plan isn't a plan. It's just a list of actions, right? And it's very hard to execute against, and it's very hard to know what your progress is. So I think that is the flip side of it, is if you don't do something like that, can't measure your progress.
Yeah.
A question I have on the planning framework, and I want to go quickly back up to the other thing. Is this planning framework the way you presented it, is it in some ways is it in response to some of the initiative stuff we put together? Have you seen some of those documents?
Yes, sorry. He recently just saw those.
This is mostly vernacular.
Well, no, because I was thinking that we could actually reasonably easily take our initiatives and start using this vernacular.
This was my effort to try to get us using a common language.
I think
So-
that's,
so yes.
so if
So
that's, if that's some part of the bill here, love it. Let's start using the same language. I think it's just easier. And I like this. I think we should,
Yeah, it's good.
I think adding in the timing is really.
The timing, yeah. I mean, could be, so look at Cambridge. Have you looked at Cambridge?
Actually.
It's really broken down to building blocks.
Yeah.
And
I-
Yeah, I like
In
Cambridge
my,
too. It's
in
very
my
good.
day-to-day life, I see plans like every day, all day. That's literally what I do all the time. So, the common question staff interviews I'd have is this: what's the morale like? And you might not have asked the question, but how does staff feel about the likelihood of this being successful? Are they concerned? Are they because people can say that people fully support climate goals, but they can be like, "Oh, I fully support it, but it's never going to happen." There's that kind of and I'm not sure we necessarily want to get that. I don't know if we want to, but that's a question that I am interested in. I'm not sure we put it in the carp though.
I didn't get discouragement or, I didn't pick that up at all. Now, it could be I'm sitting there as a consultant and, they're not going to complain to me or something like that, but I didn't get that. Everybody was willing to play ball and, was excited about it with these caveats of it's not always just super easy. So for example, you have one electric garbage truck. A garbage truck, and I found this out, a garbage truck typically costs about $350,000. The electric one costs $700,000, so twice as much. 350 grand of that was raised by a state grant, so you only paid the normal price. But if that state grant weren't there, you probably wouldn't have the EV, garbage truck. And so, this is it's a capacity issue. Some people talked a little bit about the budgeting process too, and, headroom for new debt is fairly limited. A lot of times, a warrant might be introduced and people are willing to, sort of raise the tax base or, look for other funding opportunities because Brookline is that kind of place and people, sort of jump on board with that, with those things. So, anyway, there were, that was what a lot of the discussion was. So rather than discouragement, it was more, let's roll up our sleeves, see where we're short, how can we get this stuff done?
With concern about workload and staffing, it sounded like.
There was a little bit of that. It was expressed as this, if we have a fossil fuel free mandate, then we need a different permitting system. We need new contractors. We need new people to maintain that. The garbage truck, we need new technicians to maintain this new kind of garbage truck. And we don't have that yet. So we need to send them to trainings, or we need to, invest in those trainings. And yeah, it was, that kind of stuff.
The other thing, and you're sort of touching on this in this progression here, there's got to be an action of find the money.
Yes, yeah.
Or find the approval from whatever town meeting or select board or citizens.
There is sort of another layer to this, and that's the implementation plan or the work plan, Patty, as you mentioned. And so that's beyond this. That's who would be in charge, what department owns this, by when do we need it done? Here's the sequencing of actions behind it. How much does it cost? How much do each of these strategies cost, and where can we find funding for it? Or where's a likely place to find funding for it?
I will
So
say this plan, we were very explicit that we wanted implementation plans to go with the plan itself, because I think that was a big miss in previous versions of the plan. So I think that will help both people responsible for implementing and the people looking to see how progress is or isn't being made. Because I will say that my conversations with staff, I think one of the things is they feel like they're trying really hard to make this all work and do what they can. But the rhetoric that sometimes they get back from the community is it's not enough. We're not doing enough. We're falling behind. We're not anything to be proud of. And I think that hurts if you're trying to do what you can do.
If there's not a plan, you can't be measured against your execution of the plan, which means it can be measured against abstract criteria, which means people will always find you wanting, which is a classic blunder in management. So
Yes, been waiting for a little bit, and then up next.
Okay, I'm hesitantly raising my hand. Wanting us not to dive into a deep conversation about this, but I think it's important to remark it. Are we talking about net zero, or are we talking about zero?
Talking about what was the second?
Net zero or zero?
It's net zero.
Net zero.
I
That's
think the community goal was net zero. Is that right?
The state goal. The state
Yeah.
goal is also net zero.
So I think that should be something that we are clear and consistent about from the get-go in the plan, and what the distinction ends up meaning.
And the definition of net zero, or there's more than one definition.
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think we've been using it kind of casually, sometimes interchangeably. Our board is a zero emissions advisory board, not a net zero emissions advisory board. And so I'm just wondering, again, without wanting to get into the discussion right now, but putting a marker for being clear when we're making a 15-year plan or whatever it is to get to 2040, what is it we're targeting?
One thing that I think, just to add on to what Nick was saying, it helps to have annual metrics. So there's an overall target, but then annually, what metrics are we gonna hit? Again, in that 15 years planning cycle, highly unlikely that you're gonna hit those metrics, but at least having them somewhat defined and can be updated as needed. But it's like in business, that's how we always do. What's your revenue target for margin target, expense target, whatever the targets that you're putting? We basically define it by year and say, hey, this is over the next 5 years, we'll achieve our eventual target.
just going back to what Alexander said, what Victor said, is the climate action plan going to have the types of plans that town staff are hoping for? And I could see the answer being no and being fine, as long as there was a line item that said develop plan, right? Because, the individual plans are fine. That's the kind of the first question. Is it a plan to have all of these detailed plans in the climate action plan?
So, it won't be it's strategy and action level. If you can tell from the examples here, for example, those are some illustrations. The strategies will remain you know, a little bit more high level, and there will probably be a number of action steps in there that say things like develop a plan for, you know, X, Y, and Z, because then nothing exists yet. And so there will be some of that kind of language.
I think that's fine. I think that's appropriate. I think trying to put together a plan that isn't a complete plan is actually gonna cause more problems than it solves. And then the thing that triggered with what you said is that if I was doing this for a client, in this list, I would have barriers. I would have like, what's gonna stop me doing this, right? You know, because you can say we wanna have, you know, hire EPC to plan exactly, you know, but what's the barrier? The barrier is no one's gonna fund it. Or the barrier is like, you know, town meeting's not gonna agree to, like there, I think having the, because if you don't know what's going to stop you achieving your goals, and if you don't articulate it, then you're in a hard, it's hard to. So I would maybe think of that as, and we're, and just to be clear, we're doing a bunch of that in our initiatives. We're trying to think about like what's going to stop us? How do we get past this? Like how do we, having barriers and I think is very important. And that comes back to this, because if staff are held accountable for a plan, but they don't have agency over the barriers that stop them from achieving the plan, they will still be doing poorly at the end of it,
Mhm.
right? Unless we articulate what those barriers are and make
Mhm.
someone else accountable for those, right?
Strategize too. I mean, you need to know, you need to plan ahead.
So I would add barriers to this. I mean, if you,
No, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think probably right in the implementation
Yeah.
portion,
yeah,
That's what I-
here are some barriers,
that's
and there'll
what's right.
probably be cross-cutting. You know, there'll probably be no political support, no funding availability, you know, a number of things like that.
There could be worded challenges.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
want to say we want to have goals. We want to say we have the gains.
I like that.
and back to Bill, the mission for Seattle is to meet the town's, I'm paraphrasing, but to meet town's goal of net zero carbon emissions. It's basically net zero. So is in the mission. One time, and the second time it says Brookline zero emissions goals. So it's, you are exactly right.
The clerk should help us understand.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's always an important thing, I think for a lot of communities, because these words get sort of thrown around and, yeah, there's not always understanding. Well, let's go to the ZAB interviews, and, you did receive a draft of this, I think, 24 hours ago, probably, so it wasn't that long ago. But these are some of the things that we heard from you all. First of all, some cross-cutting themes. Some things are in place, institutional change that you felt very good about, leadership in place. Some things are in progress, evaluation criteria that prioritizes both financial and carbon reduction impacts, searchable emissions to track progress, even if just within this CARB, some of these things are in the works, identifying revenue generation.
Sorry, what does searchable emissions mean?
So that would be an ability to, you know, like get online, like a dashboard, for example, and be able to see what's the progress that's been made. What was our emissions? What were our emissions last year before that kind of stuff. And then barriers, some barriers. Really, you know, I heard that return on investment is really what drives long-term uptake. And so just sort of thinking about challenges to look for ROI possibilities. High electricity costs were seen as a barrier to broad adoption for electrification specifically. And then administrative complexities can be a powerful disincentive. The example of permitting came up a few times, but I'm imagining that there are other administrative complexities as well. So these were kind of cross-cutting issues that didn't necessarily fall into a strategy component. I pulled this from the document last year, the April 2024 document, climate impact, financial return on investment, public visibility, ease of implementation by the end user, ease of commitment from stakeholders, ease of financing, and then implementation by the town staff. I know that you're still working on some rankings or sort of weights for these things. But as we sort of compare this with the list above, you know, I think that we would probably lean into you all if there are some criteria. We can work with you if you want to. just in terms of the weights that we, that you feel like you want to give these different ratings or these different criteria. So
We have framework, a preliminary framework which has weightings for these things.
okay,
From
great.
last year's, yeah.
No, from this year.
No, the new one.
I have the last year's one, I think.
No, we have- we have-
Yeah,
we have the
but you
new
have a revised one.
Yeah,
We-
we
I-
realized
That's great.
one.
Yeah, I haven't shared the new one yet, just because I wasn't sure if we were.
It is not really quite ready to share. We need one more initiative to be scored in it before I think it makes sense to share it with Strike.
Because I actually, what I found when we talked about it at the meeting, but then when I went in and actually did it for something concrete, it made me think more about the meaning of the categories.
Yeah.
And it becomes really interesting. Actually, we did some stuff we came up with. We're like, how does this work, right? So it was good.
Good. Yeah, well, I look forward to that. So this, you've already seen our category framework. This is what we shared at the previous meeting. These framework categories are also in the survey that is currently.
I did have a question about this slide.
Yeah.
Again, it's getting back to the thing with the buildings. Under transportation, vehicle electrification is, I don't know what you call the things that are in the bars there. but
Right, a
it's-
little example.
Okay, all right, but I don't see building electrification.
Yeah, I mean, these were, that's true. These were just ideas that were really given to sort of prompt things
Yeah,
from the public forum. So these were just examples. This wasn't a suggested strategy list. And as a matter of fact, building electrification came up quite a bit in both the public meeting and.
so I guess, so what is this slide is.
It's just illustrative of, of those 5 categories that we're using. Probably the message of the slide is those 5 categories across the top. And those underneath would just be examples of some things that might be in those.
Will, as you proceed, bring the carp together and come up with actual initiatives, will this change to be consistent with those initiatives?
Yeah, for sure. So you'll start seeing, more like if we go to the next slide, for example, buildings and energy, which is, energy efficiency and then renewable energy. Or energy kind of procurement. So I broke this one up into a few different slides just because there was a lot. So you can see here, the strategies and actions, electrification, coaching program, for example, for residents, additional building retrofits for energy efficiency, adoption of and expansion of BERDO to include reporting requirements, perhaps for all large buildings, perhaps a custom retrofit program, maybe one that focuses on affordable housing, maybe one that uses targeted building data to customize outreach for the enrollment. So, these are at different levels of sort of hierarchy, but
And last one, are we still in the CF interviews here?
this is really the first content from the ZAB interviews in
Okay,
terms
I
of the
thought it was, I
strategy.
just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll let you just kind of look at those for just a minute, and then we can go on to the next one. And I think the purpose of particularly this part is, as Alexandra mentioned before, we'd like to get a collective thumbs up from you all just to say, yeah, this is, we agree with these in terms of strategies. I don't think you necessarily need to feel like the level of, sort of like action step versus strategy, or all the levels sort of sorted and everything. We really, there's probably more work to do for some of that.
Yeah, I think today's high level are the things that are captured here. Is there anything that you, I would say, probably do not think should be included in some level within the planning document? That's probably what we would like to discern today, so that we know to not dig further into any of it.
This all looks great. It's my short answer. I could almost say that same for everything in here. the challenge might be how do you prioritize across it, but we have a framework for that, so maybe it's not, you know.
It'll still be a challenge, but yes, hear that. So
Is under development of custom retrofit program, is there more on the historic preservation end of things? I thought that. We did what we could already. on that.
you mean, is there more that we can do? Is that what you're
I
asking?
mean,
for?
I'm wondering why that's there and if it's something left over from last year. And
This came from the
we had
interviews.
Talked about crossing it off. You know, it was on last year's
So
list.
there,
and we-
there were 3 ZF members, 4 ZF members who did interviews, how many?
Four or five?
Four.
4. So
Yeah.
this, I think this is just from those 4 ZF members who did interviews.
But I thought the question was, is there something we want to cross off of that now in this meeting?
Oh, that we don't want to have in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
not
think
saying,
that, I think that.
if a ZF member suggested this, I'm not gonna say, I'm personally not gonna say, no, I think it's a bad idea. I think this is all.
I think we should be prioritizing based on our methodology.
Yeah, I think all these things look good.
Yeah, I think so. I think just Patty, I'm saying that was included there because someone mentioned it in the interviews in the last month. And what you're saying is you don't feel like there's anything more that can be done there. So is that really something that should be included in the plan if we've kind of gone as far as we can with that?
Yeah, we had said in February, we're like crossing that off our list because we had gone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I hope we can do more.
Wait,
Right? Do we hope we can do
We're
more?
very optimistic.
Well, of course I'm optimistic, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Right?
I hit a brick wall.
Well, yes, but that was just the first, that's.
Okay,
It was a skirmish.
There's a battle fatigue and then.
Everyone's gonna die.
Fine.
Right?
Fine.
Did you say everyone's gonna die, Vikram?
He did
That's
not
what
say
the,
that.
you're referring to the political.
Well, now we'll have to talk about.
Okay, this got dark. All right. Next one.
My apologies if you.
I want you.
It's like, well, wait a minute.
That's great. You take it up with you.
Next topic. I withdraw the question.
So, but just to give an example of the historic preservation stuff that we can still continue to do, this is just an example. It is my understanding, and some correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a process in town that says that in any time, any house, whether it's in a historic zone or not, is demolished and someone's going to build it, that there is an up to 18-month historic review process for a building, even if it's not in a historic district, in order before you can move that forward. And that's out of, like, I think that, Cambridge is like 9 months, or it just gets waved through. So there's a lot of other stuff that there's still, so it's not just about that. Okay. Yes.
I'm on board.
Okay.
I know this is a big digression, but maybe we should add a little bit of a discussion about, in one of our future meetings, discussion of this book by Ezra Klein and Scott Thompson called Abundance. If it resonated quite a bit with me, like about how towns, especially towns like Brookline, decide on what needs to be done, and we actually come in our own way.
I think we should have a reading group. We should have.
I think that,
Yeah, send out the name of the.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that there's a Naomi Klein book that I was trying to get through that I think is good, dense, but good. Hard to read. So
The book,
yeah.
Abundance. So you just mentioned, then we gotta move on, but Ezra Klein, one of the authors, has a regular podcast for New York Times, and he interviewed Jake Hawkins for us about that topic, about that book, about the overall goals of the
So yeah, send it out, I think.
the abundance agenda. It's a really interesting hour.
I'm having trouble hearing over the HVAC. You're talking about abundance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we
If
should,
you do a book
We should
club
read it.
meeting on it, invite me and.
because it's very relevant to the planning
Okay.
process, planning that we are doing, the thinking that we're doing.
I've
Or
seen
listen
it in
to
a lot of
podcasts.
places. But anyway, okay, so I split this renewable energy slide. There were a lot of different strategies, so I put it onto 2 slides, one for the municipality and one for the community at large. So, and then I further kind of split them into installations, or, something that was a capital investment, and then a procurement strategy. So you can see there's solar installations on town buildings, solar canopies for municipal parking lots, solar plus battery microgrids for on-site electricity for the town hall campus here, geothermal utility, perhaps for town-owned facilities and specific, perhaps even for the town hall campus, battery storage systems to support distributed energy. And then this idea of capturing value for revenue generation. So looking for ways to kind of capture value for the town, whether that's through, working, developing perhaps a MLP, municipal light, or I guess they wouldn't be municipal lights anymore, but a municipal utility that can sort of, buy and sell. I think there's a lot of different ways to sort of look for integrate or capturing that value.
2 thumbs up. I think
Yes, just a clarification question on bullet number 4, battery storage systems. I think let's make sure we define it. If that is the intent, this was to reduce the need for more transmission to support broader electrification. That's why I think,
and to build resilience.
and to build resilience, of course, but mostly or we should clarify that.
That's a great clarification. The distributed energy component basically to support those assets in a way. And then the procurement one was a virtual power purchase agreements. I understand, I guess, that Cambridge has this example, so I'm not super familiar with it, but putting these slides together, I researched it a little bit. They have a virtual power purchase agreement from a plant in Texas. Well, they have a community solar that's in Ohio. So the difference between these, some would say a big difference is that the upper one uses RECs, so renewable energy credits that are then retired. The lower one is a direct purchase from the facility. The electrons are traveling where they will, but the power purchase is coming directly from the facility for the second one.
The second one would be on our grid.
Right.
Love it.
But even virtual power purchase agreements are not, I think what virtual power purchase agreement should be doing is leveraging battery installations to draw power in case of power demand exceeding supply. That's typically what
that's true. So then what is Cambridge? Is that just a
So they may have
REC
done a
purchase?
REC purchase separately. That is not the VPP program. The VPP program is if a business or homeowners have installed batteries, there are companies that are going and aggregating
those,
batteries
right?
and saying, hey, in case there's a demand surge, tomorrow it's going to be 93. In the afternoon, the power demand is going to surge. We'll
draw on these, aggregate these,
and we will pay those owners a lot of money to be able to use the power.
Yeah, that's great. So Cambridge also has a different thing where they're buying RECs, and so
They call it a VPPA.
I think they do, which is where
They definitely do. I talked to, is it Megan?
Sorry?
Is it Megan? I talked to Megan about it. She said, they call it VPPA, but they had 2. She also offered that they have a consultant derived plan, which is how they persuaded the town to go ahead with it, that they might be able to share with us, to save us from spending $200,000 from the same, comes with the same planning process. But I don't know if that's something, that'll probably be something Alexander need to reach out to her about at this point. But I think either way, we can reach out to Cambridge to find out more details about what they've done. I think that's probably the right next step.
But I understand the nuance with
I
the
don't
batteries and the VPPs.
Yeah.
I can't remember her last name. Megan what? Yeah, don't remember. Anyway, whatever.
I know Julie works their chief climate officer, so I can reach out to her.
Yeah. Okay, or there might be someone else. Okay. Yeah.
On the community side or the private sector side, rooftop solar, direct procurement of solar through the CCA, 100% renewable energy has a default purchase option. So to my what's that?
On Brookline Green.
So right now, not necessarily through the CCA. I'm not sure how the CCA actually procures those renewable purchases. I looked at the program site and the default is not necessarily 100% solar. So somebody had the idea of making the default 100%, not solar, 100% renewable. This would be an opt-out versus an opt-in kind of a program. And so that was one of the ideas there.
This Brookline CCA isn't different from Brookline Green Electricity.
No, that's the same.
No,
It is
it's the same. Yeah,
So I wouldn't be in favor of 100% renewable energy as the default option for Brookline Green, particularly. I don't know that I wouldn't, I don't want to get into all the details. We went through it last year. I'm happy to do it at another meeting, but I don't know that I would be in favor of that. I think there's an expense to it. It's not clear that the renewables are really moving the needle in terms of, making the grid greener. And I think we have better options like,
Community
virtual power.
development,
Like,
right? That's-
so
I think if you were to directly procure solar power, solar plus wind power. And it's a direct procurement to say we are only gonna buy from solar farms.
sure, that would change it, but under the current
Yeah,
plan,
not the rents.
Yeah.
Not the,
Yeah.
but just actual power, which should be cheaper.
So I think we'd have to, I think this is complicated. I don't think that I would be in favor of, say, the town with the current Brookline Green that we have, that we should have 100% renewable as the default.
because we can't control the sourcing. of it.
Because it's more expensive. I mean, we have, and it also depends what you mean 100% renewable, because there's the 100% class 1 regs,
Mhm.
which is like the upper
Mhm.
tier. I would not encourage
I
that.
think I think that's what is available now, right?
Yes,
Yeah. So, but I think we could spend 20 minutes on this. We don't have time for that right now.
so, but this is helpful, so that is one that sticks out to you as like, maybe not,
Well, if we had a VPPA and we had our own, if we had,
But that's separate than the expense, because
yeah, so I think we have
there's
to be
two
careful.
elements here. One is the RECs and the other is the expense.
Yeah, so,
So this one, when it was brought up, was specifically tied to a community solar, which would be a direct purchase.
okay, might be different. Then we would do-
But you're still dealing perhaps with I mean, I guess it would depend, but you may be dealing with a price premium.
Not really. This is what the whole point is that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We can.
I think we need
will
to come
not
back
be
and look at
addressed.
this.
Okay, that's great. So
As written,
I'm
as
gonna
written,
just-
this makes me nervous, but it might be fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
But
And
see,
let's talk a little bit more about that because this could be an interesting one or whatever, but yeah, it is a complicated
if
one.
you're putting the technology aside, if Brookline CCA is the same that we subscribe to called Brookline Green Electricity. I would call this Brookline Green Electricity. I mean, that's what I get and that's what's on our website. I don't think people are going to generate, they'll get confused.
It's a community choice aggregation. That.
Okay.
So there's.
I know that term.
Yes.
I didn't.
Yes.
All right.
I actually think that if you take this strategy and say that we need to revisit what Brookline Green is, I would be like 100% behind that, because I think we've done like the first version, we've done V1. We have to look at what V2 is, and that's
Yeah.
really important,
So
right?
wording change.
Does that make sense? Right, and V2 could be a lot better, frankly, so.
Okay, got it. All right, so on transportation and mobility, and these move a little bit faster here, the Complete Streets Initiative, just moving that forward, safe routes to schools came up. Incentivizing mode shift away from individually owned vehicles, which is a kind of a higher level piece. Supporting the MBTA Communities Act compliance, and then Alberta style compliance payments for vehicle emissions with incentives or obligations for property owners to support resident EV adoption. So specifically, probably integrating infrastructure into the buildings.
That one might need legal review.
Say it again.
The last one might need legal review before we put it on a card.
Before we get into the legal thing, in English, does that mean having? Does that mean EV charging stations in apartment buildings and things like that, or?
I think it's part of the EV charging initiative, right?
Yeah, and then it would charge the owners of, it would go back to penalizing or charge somehow
Okay.
fee based.
Yeah, like I said, I know about that sort of stuff. I guess I wasn't connecting it with that. Maybe those are the words, but that doesn't seem to be just, to me, describing.
It's a requirement for EV charging infrastructure and, largely. But it's a specific mechanism. So the Verdo would be a unique mechanism to use to, to sort of incentivize that.
I don't know if you want to make some kind of note to yourself about us.
Yeah.
We're thinking mostly around cap and trade like mechanisms, right? This is both Verdo and this.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that when I'm reading that bullet, I have a lot of questions about what it means. I just wondered if there's a better way to summarize it in that number of words. Maybe it's not.
Maybe.
So I think this explains it very well, but it might be because I think I understand what the idea is, but so it's like, it's
Yeah.
problematic, right?
It's pretty radical. So I think.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, when people look at it for the first time, it's like, that can't possibly mean what I think it means. It does.
It literally does.
It is very innovative, and I don't think I've heard it in another place. So yeah, it was quite
I
innovative.
think there's some cautions around it, but
Yeah.
I do have in the question mode for this screen.
Sure.
I'm wondering whether it's here or somewhere else, municipal vehicles and continuing the transition of municipal vehicles to pure electric. It didn't show up under municipality because you were talking more about renewable energy. But I think combination of continuing the momentum that's already underway, and that includes not just vehicles, but lawn and garden equipment. I think we've really got to get that into the plan of all electric, property maintenance. Enforcing it for the town and encouraging in some way for property owners, private property owners. So that's,
Landscapers, that's where Concord ran into.
yeah, and we have a part of the year ban on gas powered equipment here, but not full year.
But there's a nuance that you could do, like incentivize, you could pay a higher rate for people who are using, electric.
So there's some category that's loosely associated with transportation, I think, fitting in. And then the other thing that came up when you were talking about battery storage a couple slides ago. We must have generators, town-owned power generators for public events. You pour in the gasoline, you turn it on, and it spews out the stuff. And so if we could come up, and are there buildings that are have generator backup?
Yes. Yep. For emergency centers during extreme events.
Right, police and yeah. So migrating from whatever's powering those generators right now to battery, I think needs to be explicitly included.
Hydrogen fuel cells.
Sure, I mean, whatever.
Or methane fuel cells.
If you can find the hydrogen.
So we're currently 10 minutes over on this item. How do we want to continue?
I would let Rich finish his slide deck because he's most important. And then I would say that we're probably not going to get to discussion of initiatives this evening. And need to just have that at the next meeting.
I agree.
I mean, we can, we're almost done here with these strategies. But Bill, I want to capture the one just before. So I got the municipal conversion to, electric vehicles. I got that one too. Completing the electric vehicle and lawn equipment. And then the other one was batteries in place of other generator.
Non-greenhouse gas, fuel free, fossil fuel free.
Possibly. Actually, non-emission or non-emitting, sorry, because fuel cells are can use gas, there's no emission.
Sounds good. Non-emitting.
Got it. Okay. Resource conservation, you're there. anaerobic digestion for organic waste came up. We collect, you already collect lots of organic waste, and there's probably, there's with some small effort according to the waste folks and some funding, you could collect a lot more. So the problem is they
What does this
smell.
look like beyond composting? And what is this? This is for within the town itself or just for town buildings and whatnot?
Yeah, so residential, so right now it's not required residentially for compost organics collection. It's an option. And then for schools, we're actually almost there on schools. So that's kind of a soon to be box checked, and then municipal buildings as well.
My son started one of the compost.
But it's not
Oh,
for
yeah?
compost. Its goal is not compost. Compost would be an add-on benefit. It's mostly for power generation.
This would be constructed in the town and operated.
No,
by
it
the
could
town?
be, it could be operated, but the collection effort could be, I don't know where it came from, but I love it. Huge fan.
Okay.
So essentially you're going to the grocery stores, restaurants, everybody that is
Okay,
generating
if
waste.
collected, then it would go to some
Anaerobic digestion.
digester facility.
Yeah.
so-
Correct.
So I want to hear a full explanation that you
So-
involve.
So what it does is you anaerobically digest every organic matter and the output is methane. So composting generates a lot of methane,
Mhm.
which is bad, which is released. In this case, the methane is captured and can be actually combined with fuel cells to generate power without any emissions. So you actually have now a full cycle.
And
Energy.
that's a technology that
That
could be
exists.
implemented by the town today.
That is a question mark.
Okay,
You may have to go and partner with, there are a bunch of companies in New England that do this. Actually, one of the biggest companies started out of New England. Now
it's
I
like
think,
in startup phase still, or,
they kind of, they've always been in startup.
okay, it's not like,
But no, the technology exists. I think if with the right kind of support, the biggest expense is collection of organic waste. And Brookline being highly dense, if we can
Mhm.
collect the organic waste and have a facility that the cost is low,
I love the idea,
that's
But
interesting.
it is a great idea.
Money,
but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that it works, but if it does work, I
It
love
works.
the idea.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the collection part.
So I will just tell you all that this was discussed in great detail by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And at the time, there was opposition to anaerobic digestion as a waste disposal method for Brookline. So I think a couple of these are ones that we should have kind of some cross collaborative
Mhm.
conversations with some of the other waste teams, transportation teams,
Yeah.
to make sure that
Yeah.
Do you know why? Why
uh,
was there opposite?
they were, honestly, there was, I think, an overall concern, about waste to energy as a concept that we were, investing in Brookline.
But we are burning our current garbage,
I
right?
understood, yeah,
so anyway, cross-board conversation is a good idea.
It could be that they
Um,
didn't want it in the town too, because it's
there
The
was,
smell.
they were,
smells.
No smell.
no, it wasn't,
This
That's
has
why
no
it's-
smell?
That's why it's anaerobic.
They've got 12, Deer
I
Island's got
see,
12
I see.
anaerobic digesters.
Sorry,
Deer Island, the MW.
Deer Island has
It's got
30
12
megawatts
They've
of
got 12
digesters.
digesters, yeah.
there we go.
It's just,
they weren't talking about it in Brookline, just to clarify. They were talking about
oh, we're not gonna.
So it's this line item, which I thought was composting, is not composting. Then is composting, expanding the composting program part of what we're looking at here.
The output is compost
Right, but,
and
Well, with this,
You're wondering about whether this belongs here or in electricity someplace.
I don't know what I'm, I
associated.
did not expect this item, I did not expect this item to be actually talking about power generation. That's not what I was finding when I read this. in that
Well,
page.
yeah, so what we have in the resource conservation and management thing is how do we process our solid waste? What do we do with waste?
Okay, there's the.
So that's the composting component and, part of the diversion effort. It just so happens that you could landscape it, you use it for landscaping materials, or you could use it for power generation.
Uh-huh.
So currently you sell to Black Earth, which is a third party. They pick it up. I think they just do landscape, soil, they sell the.
sorry, so clarification, there's not an either or. That would be my one clarification for what you just said.
Either or in terms of,
And whether you can generate power or you can use it for land cover. It's not in either.
right, because you can still take that
can-
and use it for land cover.
Correct, right.
Right.
So the output is compost. Just composting releases a lot of methane, which we let it go in the atmosphere. So while composting is good, we are still releasing a lot of methane.
Yeah.
This captures the methane and doesn't let it become damaging for the environment.
Sounds like we'll be talking more about this. Can I just clarify though? Solid waste took it up in connection with the CARP discussion, or was that an unrelated meeting 2
Unrelated.
years ago or
This
whatever?
was, yeah, unrelated 2 years ago when they were looking at townwide composting and whether it would go to an anaerobic digester.
Okay, so that's not, that sounds like there's probably room for robust discussion currently in the current context.
If there's some part of this slide that is intended to be talking about solid waste, it should say it's talking about solid waste.
Yeah, so no direct solid waste ideas surfaced from the interviews that I conducted. So that's not to say that that shouldn't be a strategy in the CARP. This is just reviewing the,
This is what 4 people
Yeah.
on
Still
DM
I'm
said.
summarizing, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
This is
So-
just
This
4
is not meant
humans.
to be a comprehensive everything.
Right,
This is
right.
just
Right.
the review of the stuff that people talked
Yeah,
about.
just, I missed entirely the fact that the topic here is solid waste.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's fair enough. And it's not just solid waste, it's all sort of the resource use. So solid waste, water, building materials, which is why we have this adaptive reuse of buildings, life cycle or embedded carbon analyses, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So the next one is natural systems and community well-being.
Can I go back? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know that we're almost out of time. On the second to last bullet. I
Yes,
wonder if that could be kind of the general topic of developing policies around funding streams that we have, not only CPA, but we also have the housing trust. I mean, maybe this is already covered in detail in their policies and procedures. I don't know. I don't know that that's the case in the kind of incentivizing specifically that we're trying to accomplish. And it would be worth us having a look at it. I mean, how many millions of dollars were voted last week by town meeting for the CPA? I mean, on a whole range of things, historic preservation and then open space and everything, but it was like $7 million. Wasn't it?
It was- Yeah, the number was in the millions.
Yeah, and then the housing trust. So it's just like, just something that we should be looking at, just to review kind of, and maybe see if they would be enthused about developing something more incentivizing for them. Right beyond
That sounds good to me.
that, so maybe more general. Could be CPA, could be his, housing.
you mentioned the housing trust. Is there another one that you have in mind? And I'll just jot it down.
Not off the top of my head, but I could be forgetting something.
I'll just put your name by it for right now, then I can, come up with other
Yes,
pieces.
is there?
Well, what's the real estate transfer tax we're talking about? Would
No.
that be a source of,
No, well, first of all, that's just for affordable housing, if I recall. I don't remember how the warrant.
could it be used to put heat pumps in affordable housing? I mean,
Maybe, I don't. It's just a resolution to push the state house to pass a bill that's pending on that.
Okay.
Okay. Natural systems and community well-being, just looking for different collaborations with NGOs that's relatively non-specific. Volunteer supported initiatives with integrated staff-led efforts. This is something that came up. And, I think this worth building out just a little bit more. This is a kind of a cross-cutting thing. Obviously, there's a lot of different initiatives that various people are interested in. The staff brought this up too. Public education, emphasizing financial and environmental benefits, to somebody's point earlier, just about educational pieces. And then hosting climate summits and other civic engagement opportunities to sort of educate the population.
I very much like the volunteer supported initiatives. It's like staff-led efforts, specifically around, and this is maybe, we have a lot of volunteer led efforts, including this one. Like, yeah, I think more staff led with volunteer would be great. I think that's a good direction to point this in.
All right, one more is the resilience, adaptation, and risk reduction category. So the strategies and actions were higher density housing to support climate resilience and reduce VMT, which is also related to the MBTA Communities Act.
Another mysterious initials,
I'm sorry,
PMT.
Vehicle.
vehicle miles traveled.
Thank you.
Yeah, in general, I think, and this, well, the thing with the CCA, once you said is community choice aggregation, I would suggest, if this is something that's going to be seen by people in general, I would spell things out in something, not use the acronym.
Yeah.
Or else
Fair
do like the
enough.
Department of Energy does at the beginning of a report, you have 10
Now,
pages.
all those little acronyms. So yeah, so you can see the other components here. And that's it. I put this planning framework back and we just had a closing question, but I think we've covered these in our individual slides.
So this is great. I think this is all good. I think the only thing that we said that we might want to revisit or to add was just that 100% renewable energy, and just think about it more as a B2 for the Brookline Green.
So what I'll do is I'll condense these into a Word doc where you can just see the, a short 2-page or whatever. You can see all the strategies by
Thank you.
Alexandra. Where you can see all the strategies listed. I'll note the things that we talked about today. And, there'll be I'll put some more explanation in some of these that may have been a little thin on explanation. And then you can have that and, turn that around if you have additional comments or whatever.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And if there's no other questions.
Next up is the July public meeting.
Yes, June public. meeting.
June is what.
June 17th.
June.
Yeah, I think June 17th
2 weeks.
coming up.
Is
Yeah,
it gonna be on Zoom too, or only in person?
I think it's only in person. Yeah,
That's what it looked like on the website.
It's originally.
Virtually.
So we're gonna punt the rest of the agenda, is my understanding.
But I do have one clarification I would like to ask about. But
Go ahead.
so the timing of some of the initiatives, so
Is this a question that involves me or, okay.
Can I say one thing that doesn't involve you? And I just realized Alexandra, but it's summer. It's kind of summer. And we have a public presentation, public input session in kind of summer. I mean, is it possible to do a remote option as well?
I think you should raise that question by email to Alexandra.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention it to Rebecca. Maybe Rebecca can pursue it.
Yeah, I know the way that we discussed in the planning process was just having it fully in person, like we did the first one.
Oh,
And
I
then
can email.
recording the initial presentation that is gonna start the CARP and then posting that. But I can relay that
Just
to
point out
Alexandra.
the timing. I mean.
The summer
happy
connection
to be
being
there.
people being out of town. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna be out of town. I think Alan's gonna be, I mean, this is just a small sampling of how many people might be out of town, this time of year.
Yeah, we can, it's a facilitation thing. So having people listen in, we can.
Okay.
think
I just wanted to mention that before you go.
I know we did sort of decide that maybe it would be all in person, but
Yeah, so I think the challenge is we had 40 people out of the 100,000 residents who showed up, so it's not a representative process anyway, but
This is too bad.
yeah.
Okay.
which question?
So the question is, we're working on the residential solar initiative. We are already in June. And the timing is like there's quite a bit to be figured out. So that's one complication is the timing, right? The second complication is the current tax code that the Senate is considering, but the one that was passed by the House last week it basically gets rid of residential solar investment tax credit by the end of the year. So what that means is there is a mad rush right now, even though it has not been finalized. We are hoping it is not, Senate doesn't go along with that. But let's assume the Senate goes along with that. And the final bill kills the residential investment tax credit. So what the tax cut, what it is saying is the system has to be operational by December 31st for you to qualify for the investment tax credit. So for the system to be operational, what it means is not only it has to be installed, the utility has to send their people, their inspectors, to go and inspect your installation and then turn on. The utility has to physically turn on the system. What that means is utilities typically have one person doing this. They are not in a rush by any means. Usually it takes them several weeks to schedule this site visit. If there's a mad rush, the installation might have to be done by September 30th or October 15th at the latest to be able to get that inspection done by December 31st. So we're getting to that. So if the installation has to be done by September 15th, call it October, let's call it October 15th. And we are in June, it's not giving us enough time to plan this initiative, do the outreach, and contractors are getting overwhelmed by requests, because every contractor is reaching out to their prospects saying, hey, remember you've been sitting on the sideline?
Well, these initiatives are longer range, right? I mean, we're really trying to paint a broader picture.
Correct. So this may end up being a next year's initiative. Because if we launch it in July, now we have July 4th.
Because it changes the mechanism, it changes how it works.
It changes in how it works.
But you had evaluated for that as well, right? You did the slides, one with the credits and one without.
No, that was municipal solar
Yeah,
and municipal solar. This is residential.
Which is different.
Which is a little bit different. The economics changes quite a bit for residential.
Yeah.
And the time, so I'm struggling to say, how quickly are we able to even launch this program?
I'm not sure that we'll get it all launched in time, is the short, I mean, that's basically the concern you're raising, and I think that's a valid concern, which is unfortunate.
Maybe part of it is, and I'm still getting up to speed on some of this about the initiatives, but what's the definition of initiative? It's a program that you're picturing launching as of some date and has some specific.
For this one, the relevance is this, because usually we don't have solar installations in the winter.
Well, right, but I mean, this, the EV charging initiative that I've been working on, I certainly wasn't thinking of it as like a launched program as of some date. It's more like a set of goals that would inform the CARB, that would inform our, I wasn't looking at it at all as a program that gets started.
You're right. For most other initiatives, timing is not as critical. For the residential solar initiative,
It is more so.
Because of the initiatives that.
because of the timing of the
Because
tax
you can't-
credits and the tax bill
Uh-huh.
and how things have to happen for the rest of the year. So it is possible we can define the initiative and say, you know what, we're gonna just launch it next spring.
Or next administration. I mean,
Well, hopefully before that, I mean, but yes,
But yeah, even if the investment tax credit goes away, we can still go out. The effectiveness is not going to be as high.
there it is.
The
Yeah,
adoption is not going to be high. We'll have to lower our targets.
Yeah.
But spring is usually. Yeah, or we can even launch it in the fall, during the winter months. It's less effective, but we can do it. People shop for home improvement and solar. So it's very much tied to this cycle of the sun.
I don't think, I don't think we can solve for this. I think the initiative that we're thinking about residential solar needs to assume that the ITC's, the investment tax credit's going away, right? Because just from a time perspective, we need to assume that if we want to try and do something shorter term than that, I think that's more of an ad hoc thing that we have to talk about doing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So we don't do the full program, but we maybe do
We
a
could, if we wanted to
short
do it,
duration marketing.
yeah, if we wanted to try to do that, that would be worth talking about.
Yeah.
After town meeting, once Kathleen is kind of like clear, that would be interesting to talk about.
Okay.
A couple of questions, if I may. We had a couple of things on the agenda that I wasn't quite sure how to understand them. There was this attachment, near-term rate design to align with the Commonwealth's decarbonization goals. We don't need to get into it because we don't have the meeting, but are we going to be deferring that to the next meeting? And therefore, what should we be doing with that?
Is there a time sensitivity to it?
There is
The
a
discussion possible
deadline
vote with DPU
associated
comment?
with it.
Yeah.
Do you remember what
That
it
is
is?
before the next meeting that we have.
Yeah,
scheduled.
so
I think they have
we-
a
Before the next
June
meeting.
12th deadline
I think,
scheduled.
we can talk about this actually now, and maybe we should,
Vote on it.
yes, no, we should vote on it.
Do you have the Word document version you could put up on the screen? Because the
Yeah.
one that's in the agenda,
I don't think I'm talking about the DPU comment letter.
Which one are you talking about?
It's
Well, it's all related though. There are like 3 documents that were related.
The
One was
first
the
document is
replan
like
that
this very
explained it.
in-depth report
Yeah, you have the,
that you're welcome to review if you.
okay. That's what I just didn't know. What do I do with this thing?
That's just for reference.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
important information is the comment letter, that is B, and then the C attachment is the analysis that they've done, basically like the data to back up the argument that they lay out.
Yeah, and
It chose one of the 4 plans as explained in that law
Right,
report.
yeah,
It had 4 alternatives,
Okay.
and our letter recommends one of those 4.
the seasonal rate for heat pump.
Mhm. And there were pros and cons discussed of each of the 4 in the report.
And the point here being,
Who is we? I'm just
Yeah.
curious who put that
So-
together.
The reason that we received this is
Okay.
we had the consultants who run the Brookline Green Electricity reached out to us.
Okay.
And they're just like reaching out to all the, I'm assuming, all the municipalities that they provide renewable energy or support the renewable energy initiatives. And this is the initiative that they want to send.
so they've drafted a letter on our behalf that they would like us to adopt
Okay,
and probably change a little bit, because there's a couple of things in here that might tweak a little bit, but.
Yes, that's correct.
And the idea is that we would take this, tweak it a little bit, and we would send it from the town of Brookline in support of.
show our support.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the general idea.
Yeah.
So I can direct everybody to the page of the report that's got the pros and the cons of each of the 4. The one that we're recommending, one of the cons, maybe there were others, had that it kind of suppresses, it kind of helps people who are still on fossil fuel for a period of time. But then at a certain point, when you hit winter peak instead of summer peak, there's going to be sticker shock. So what do we think? It's like 2035 is when the peak switches from summer to winter.
But isn't there, I'm reading stuff about the sticker shock. Can't you go on a budget plan?
And there was some, if you read on in the document, there are some suggestions policy wise to mitigate against that. That wasn't one of them. This collaboration of various state agencies has some other ones, but I'm sure they'll think of things like that. But let's see, the pros and the cons are in that rate design thing. Let's see.
You know what page?
It's like that section is around 16. It's in this executive summary. That's it. So the narrative is on page 16, 15 to 16, pros and cons, and then there's a chart.
Is this summary of considerations of alternative rate designs? Is that
Yeah.
that's the table?
It's a really long document. It's like
PDF
88
PDF
pages.
Yeah.
page 17. ES table 1, that's that thing?
Oh, is
Is
that
that it? Patty?
that table? Is that?
Does it have the cons? I don't
Patty,
think that
can-
has-
is it on the screen?
Oh, yeah, it has the cons in the red
Yeah.
and the pros in the green.
The thing we're looking at on the
Yep.
screen, is that the
Yep.
thing you're talking about?
The reds are the
Okay.
cons.
And so what do we do with this?
So these are the 4 options. The letter is suggesting, if you're in that chart, the third from the left,
The seasonal heat pump column.
So-
Suggestion.
this is showing us the comparison of the 4 different options that they put on the table.
Yeah.
And I guess we were contacted by, who was it?
Representatives from Good Energy who run the Brookline Green Electricity Program.
Okay, and do you know what other communities are doing? I guess we're
I'm
the
not
only
aware
ones.
of what other communities are doing, but there is just like an open public comment period
Mhm.
for this
Mhm.
issue.
And the deadline is,
June 12th, that they asked us to send the letter, and you guys do support this by June 12th to them.
But I'm happy to trust far better minds
This-
than mine.
it's a
Look
third
through all
party
this.
contractor.
Was
Well, I
that,
know they're our partner
Yeah.
for Brookline Green Energy. So
Mhm.
we've worked with them for as
Yeah.
long as the PG's been around.
Right.
They've been great. There's been a lot of positive feedback from, Cara before. We loved working with them. We thought they were a really good partner. And I don't think we have any complaints really with them. They did try and raise their rates, but then they backed up on that. I think we've been very happy with them. I think that the question here is, I mean, I think for sure we should be sending a supporting letter on one of these things. We should probably be following what Brookline Green suggests, unless we have substantive reasons to think that one of these things is wrong. I feel that we are not in a position right now to definitively say
Mhm.
that we, unless we're gonna all agree that we're just gonna go with Brookline Green, their Good Energy's recommendations, which we can do. But even if we said we go with Good Energy's recommendations, I think we would want to tweak the letter a little bit. I'm pretty sure that there will be editorial changes to the letter that they sent us. It's the short version, right?
And what's the deadline on this?
Soon.
June, Bob.
a week from tomorrow?
Yeah.
Did anybody read the full report? Did these bodies, there are like four different a bunch of state bodies that came to this report. I guess they've been working on it for a while. Did they make a recommendation at the end? Does anybody know? I haven't read the full report.
I don't feel able to opine about this one way or another.
Yeah,
I would abstain from the vote on this. I like to understand what it is I'm voting on. I don't think there's any chance I could understand.
So more generally, the issue is that there's a concern about the adult, and it's a genuine concern. A lot of people installing heat pumps. Heat pumps are not are far less efficient in cold winter months. Their concern is that a lot of people are going to be seeing much higher utility bills than they're expecting. There is an effort to address that. This is that effort. And the question is, which of these four options is best suited to address this issue, right? Good Energy has done their assessment, and they think the seasonal option, I think, is that right? Is the one that they feel is the most likely to effectively address the issue.
And
I don't have any-
my understanding is the seasonal rate is if you have a heat pump, you will get a reduced rate on
When it's cold.
electricity in the winter. So I don't do this in the pejorative way, but you're getting a subsidy or something so that it'll be less discouraging for people to install heat pumps. I mean, my thought when I read the thing was, as far as the technical details and stuff, it's very complicated. I didn't even try to understand that part. Looking at it and knowing, again, from the Verdo perspective, the whole idea of getting people to install heat pumps, and you look, the big takeaway in here for me, which was something I already knew, but they stated based on some real analysis, is that if you currently are using oil heat or electric resistance heat, and you put in a heat pump under the current rate structure, your utility bill will either be the same or go down. If you have gas heat, which is most people, and you put in a heat pump, your utility bill will go up. So let's do something to encourage the installation of heat pumps. So I like your general idea, but as far as which one,
What's the impact of a 2035 sticker shock? I mean, they say, how does that impact the kind of goals we're trying to achieve? I haven't thought about that at all. I mean, they flagging that as an issue. they say, I mean, I tried to fast forward to the end. I think this was posted today. I mean, it's 88 pages. I haven't read
It
it.
was yesterday, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it, I looked at the materials in the morning, I did this, and I just saw this today. And I tried to just at least look at the executive summary, but I tried to fast forward and now on page 80 to try to see if there's any bottom line. And
I think,
again, not reading it carefully, I mean, it just says that this rate would have to be sunset, when there's the shift to the 2035.
so I think that is
Amazing.
part of it. I think this is meant to be for current rates. If you look at the letter, it's meant to lower total annual electricity cost by roughly 15% for the average residential heat pump customer. So looking at the letter specifically, in paragraph 3, that's what it's talking about. So the Eversource proposal is suggesting that. And then it kind of goes through this cooling versus heating question versus national grid.
Okay, it's just for current rate, okay.
It's for
So
current
the
rates.
other stuff is unrelated, I
And
guess.
it's also recommending, yeah, it's the letter we care about. Everything else we care about for reference information, but it's the letter we care about. Because it's the
They're
letter
not
we'll be
related.
sending,
Okay,
right? And the other part of it is the automatic enrollment of customers who can receive mass save heat pump rebates since January 1st, 2022, which basically simplifies and maximizes participation, meaning that you'd actually have to kind of opt in to this rate. And in order to do that, obviously people won't remember to do that, but because we have the mass save information, we can use that information to automatically opt people into that.
The only concern that I've had with this one is generally it's good direction. While a lot of people have installed heat pumps, they've installed it for summer use to provide air conditioning. And they tend to use maybe heating a little bit in the shoulder months. But as soon as peak heat time comes in, peak winter sets in, they go back to their fossil fuel based systems. So Massachusetts took away the requirement when initially the rebates were offered.
Only if you took out your,
Only if you took out your fossil fuel, but that requirement was removed. So a lot of the heat pumps are now getting the rebates and will get that pricing even, they're not really using it for it.
although you could make the counter argument that people are keeping their existing heating systems because they're more efficient and effective. And if they got a better electricity rate, maybe they would move their.
That's possible.
Yeah,
So-
we don't know. It's speculative.
I mean, this uses some of the same language as the report, the same language. I mean, it's proposing that model in the report, but it's saying at the very end, last since 2025, 26 heating system. So it's like very time limited, apparently, is what, is what it relates to.
Well, no, they say they want it to be
In time
approved in
for-
time for.
Implement.
It's not
Okay.
only for 1 year. Now, I've been looking at this thing.
Are these related documents?
The people who
They
don't
are.
have. heat
They're related,
pumps,
yeah.
Their bills are gonna go up.
Correct. It could be
Yeah.
eventually the
Right.
utility has to make the
Yeah,
same amount of money.
Yeah.
So they're not doing any, they're not taking losses.
Rebecca says they're all, the three
Yeah,
documents are
so I think to
related.
shed a little bit of light on it, the long document is not meant to propose one of the 4 categories. It was meant to study the 4 options,
Yeah.
from my understanding. And then now we're deciding which one or to propose today, or deciding
the
which
4.
ones to actually.
Yeah.
And we're getting recommendation from
Mhm.
Good Energy on what we should be supporting.
So it is the pros and the cons, and I don't know, does anybody have an opinion on the pros and the cons in that chart?
I don't think I don't think that's the option. I don't think we're in a position to
Yeah.
make a recommendation other than recommendation Good Energy
Right.
has made.
Do we
So
sign on that?
we're either signing up for the letter
Right.
or we are not signing up for the letter.
Right.
Those are 2 options. It's binary.
Yeah, and again,
I'm not disagreeing.
the way I see it, it's not so much the pros and cons that are in the chart, you can go into that. It's the high level, what does it achieve? And what it achieves is if you have a heat pump, your utility bill, if this goes into effect this next winter, your utility bill will be, I think, about 15% less than it would have been under the old rate structure.
Per kilowatt, per
Per kilowatt hour.
not net.
Per kilowatt
Yeah.
hour.
I-
per-
The
yeah.
rate, the rates.
Yeah, your utility bill will go up. Okay, and people who don't have heat pumps, their utility bill, I'm sorry, the heat pump, your bill will go down. People without heat pumps, their bill will go up. So many more people don't have heat pumps, their bill will go up. a little
I
bit.
understand all that.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, to me, that's what we're voting on.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if we support this particular option, we're not supporting a different option if we had thought about it and read a little more, we might think it's actually. a better
Oh,
option.
God,
You know,
I think.
I don't think that's,
PhD
I don't think that's,
we
I don't think that,
don't have
that is an
that.
option available.
Yeah, we don't have time.
Yeah,
So the
well, we don't
question
have
is,
time,
do we
and-
sign off or do we not?
It's, yes, literally, do we sign up or do we not?
When was this presented to us?
In the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So,
Can we?
To me, it
vote-
seems like a good idea, but I haven't
Can we
read about it.
vote virtually? I would love to, maybe, to your point, I would
Mhm.
love to.
Set up a
not
Zoom
get
meeting.
chance
Why
to-
is the deadline what it is?
The deadline for public comp is June 12th. We need to have it signed and sent off to them because the DPU deadline. The public comment closed on June 12th.
So I'm fine voting yes, or take a couple days. I did not read the long document.
I'm not certain it would be useful to read the long document, but I understand the concern about reading the long document.
Because without Alexandra here, we should probably have some.
Well, no, I think we have all the information that Rebecca's given. Oh, Rebecca, Alexander
this
and I were
deemed
all on the
urgent?
same.
Is this
Right.
like, what's the climate up there, the state, like what are the
I know pretty much what has been discussed right now.
what does Alexandra think about this?
I don't think Alexandra knows a whole lot more. So Alexandra, Rebecca and I
Mhm.
were all on the same thread with Good Energy. I think the information that's been shared is the same information that's been shared. I
And
don't
she
think,
talked to staff about
I
this.
think it's just been emailed from correspondence. Because
Has she, like in the last 3 days, talked to staff to get kind of a read from?
This has not been a conversation that we've had amongst.
So what happened
Or at
is
least that I've had with her. I don't know. And she's had other conversations with.
Good Energy wrote to us and said.
Yeah,
would
I
you
just
support-
email.
No, you saw it, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
I have, these are questions. And, So I was seeing if Rebecca can answer them.
Well, my overall take on it is, I think what I described is what
Correct,
Alexandra would do. And if I look at it in the context of, I'll do it in Berto, because that's what I've been working on. Okay, Berto is there to encourage people, and even more than encourage them, there's things that are much stronger than this, to switch over from natural gas heat or whatever they have to heat pumps. This is an incentive, just like Berto would be an incentive. So therefore, it's something I support. It is much less in terms of the effect on what it does to people who have gas heat. This is much less draconian or whatever than saying if your emissions are more than this, you're gonna make $234 per metric ton. So I think it supports our goals.
Right. The question for Brookline, clarification I would love to have is, because we have a CCA agreement, does it impact Brookline residents' rates?
Yeah, actually, that was my question on this was,
So
this,
this,
we do delivery from Greenland, or, I'm sorry, supply, not delivery.
so Good Energy are the people who manage the CCA. So I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Because our supply contracts is fixed price,
Yeah,
are we getting 15% on T&D?
right.
That is an excellent question.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering also when I read the thing. It's the way they're talking about it and the graphs and everything is utility bill. They have gas.
Or is it just people that opt out of the Brookline Green that this applies to?
Correct.
So we do need that clarifying question. So why don't we do this? We can set up, I guess we'll give us all 2 days. We'll meet on Friday. we need to have a forum of people who can meet, though.
Yeah.
So it's just four of us.
Next Monday, I'm on the road all day, Friday,
Monday's fine.
but I can join my phone.
No, Monday's fine. Monday's better. So we'll try and make Monday if we can get a quorum. And we'll do a virtual meeting to discuss this. We need the follow-up question from about your question. I'll forward it to Good Energy and see what their answer is.
Well,
And
the draft of the letter itself is talking about the town of Brookline, not CNAP. So is town staff asking our thoughts, but this letter is coming from, who is the town of Brookline in the letter?
so it could be the select board. It could be the chair of ZIAP. It would have to be a town body that responds to it. So the options would be, the best option is the select board. Second best option is,
I think the answer is in here. Eversource's proposal would reduce the cost of distribution, transmission, and other reconciling charges in the heating season compared to, so it's delivery. It's not supply.
so it's delivered.
So we get
Answer your question.
50% on.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah.
you're saying delivery, but that's distribution in the letter, that's the same?
Yeah.
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 So, I guess, you answered the question pretty firmly, but when we say something about the town of Brookline submits, you're saying,
It would ideally be a select board, but we'd have to, so if we want the select board to do it, we'd have to vote, and we'd have to get the select board in time for them to vote on it.
it seems,
I
So
think
that's very tricky.
typically, like when things like this are submitted, like when I've done stuff like this for the Conservation Commission, it just goes on Conservation Commission letterhead and then it's signed, it would be signed
Yeah.
by the chair.
So it can absolutely be ZIAP that sends us out.
okay. So then it would be ZIAP respectfully submits,
Yes.
not the town of Brookline. So
Yeah, I would go through and make like edits to add letterhead and all
I'm
that.
just saying, we are speaking on behalf of the town when we do that. That's where I'm going with that.
Or at least we're having input into the language
Yeah.
that somebody else signs off on. I mean, I'm just looking at the chart again, and the only red is this winter peaking thing in 2035, and it says at the end that can be sunsetted. And you know, three of these have the same red, so it sounds like there just needs to be a change in 10 years. And that's the only negative these bodies identified, so it seems like a good proposal.
Yeah, I mean, what they're saying, the reason it's on all three of those is that they're saying if we had a seasonal rate, and as you get more heat pumps, there's gonna be more electricity required in the winter, it's good, yeah, so I think. that-
We have an option now. Someone can make
Out 10 years.
someone can make a motion to submit this letter as is, and we can be done with the Monday meeting, right?
Yeah.
That's an option, or we could just go with the Monday meeting. If someone wants to make a motion, they can make a motion. I obviously cannot make that motion.
Well, can I make a different motion? Just that we recommend submitting this letter in support along the lines of the substance in the letter. I mean, they can wordsmith it if they, Alexander wants to wordsmith it, she can, you know, I mean, we're not.
Well, it'd be
right?
coming from ZIA. So
Yeah.
we'd be
But-
worse, yes, that's
But we
fine.
do that with legislation. I mean, you can
Go ahead.
do that.
So does someone want to second that?
What is the motion?
That, ZIA recommends that the town, submit the proposed letter in support of heat pump related rate change substantively, in conformity with the drafted materials. Was that English?
Until the like last few words.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I forgot what I said at the beginning of the sentence by the time I got to the end of it.
Does someone want to second that?
Second,
We'll vote, start over here.
aye. I'm gonna abstain.
Aye.
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 Right, and I would say, if you haven't read the report, I want to read it again. There's some interesting things in it. For example, it has something I look a little closer at the relative utility use in multifamily versus a single family.
We have to adjourn.
Oh, we have to
Oh,
adjourn.
sorry.
We have to adjourn the meeting, so we
Okay.
with all of us.
Yeah.
All this. So someone move to adjourn.
I move.
Okay.
Second. I'm the
Vote.
second.
Aye.
Can I
Great.
talk to you for a second?
yes.
So where are we fitting in additional initiatives? Because the EV residential, I think I've taken that as far as I can.